Hey all you heroes, hawks, heralds, crows, pirates, and wardens. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we unpack, discuss, and galaxy brain about all the lore behind the Dragon Age series.
We are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode, we'll be talking about a different topic in the Dragon Age universe. From character deep dives to exalted marches and elven gods, we will cover it all.
There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about Dragon Age and its lore. I'm one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup, and I'm here with my other host.
I'm Shelby, also known as She-Cup.
And we are here today for our long-awaited and much anticipated for, which is the same thing. I just said the same thing in different ways. Our patron chat. Yes, we are here with our patrons, and so I'll allow them to introduce themselves, and we will start with the one and only Cash.
Hi, happy to be here.
And then next is Lizzie.
Hello, everyone.
And then Capricorn Tower.
Hello, this is Nick B, also known as Capricorn Tower.
And then Crimson Knight.
Hello, everyone. Great to be back.
And then Macman.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Can't wait to get started.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're here to talk about companions. Companions. And we are going to attempt to tell you which game has the best companions and why, which seems like it's going to get dicey.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a little bit contentious and may even turn into an all-out battle tonight. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to give us a list of all the companions?
Yes, I can do that. I have it broken down by game. So, and we're not talking about which game has your favorite companions. We're talking about which game has the best companions. So if we have time at the end, we'll talk about our favorites. So for Origin, we have Alistair, Dog, Liliana, Morrigan, Oghren, Shale, Sten, Wynn, Zevran, and potentially Loghain. And then in Dragon Age 2, we have Anders, Aveline, Bethany or Carver, Fenris, Isabella, Meryl, Sebastian, and Varric. And then for Inquisition, we have Blackwall, Cassandra, Dorian, Iron Bull, Cole, Sarah, Varric, Solus, Vivian, and then we have Cullen, Josephine, and Liliana as advisors. And I see that someone put spoilers in the chat for Loghain becoming a companion. And honestly, at this point, I'm not putting spoilers for a 15-year-old game. Just go play the game. All right. Does anybody have thoughts that they wanted to share? Maybe, I don't know if somebody has a super controversial take that they want to share first. I don't know.
I can go first, or Matt can go first. I can shock everyone with my answer.
Sorry. I don't know if it's controversial, but I always felt like it's very different for each game, has very different reasons in why the companions are there, what each companion does. To me, 2 always felt like the chaotic D&D party of Dragon Age. You know what I mean? Just like they were all just there for the fun and the good time. And even the ones that usually weren't had their moments that are like, okay, this is fun. They can be fun. Even Carver can have his fun moments.
So I guess that means your answer is officially Dragon Age 2 has the best companions.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, it's very different, but like I feel like when I go to a game like Dragon Age, I go for the fun. I want to have fun with this game. Sometimes the fun is very like melancholy, like telling a great story, and that's what Inquisition has a lot of. But like to me, 2 just feels like, as a D&D nerd, like I said, the chaotic D&D party. Everyone's there. Isabella's having weird, fun interactions with Varric. Varric's having fun interactions with Fenris. Everyone's just enjoying themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Austin, you said you had a hot take. I'm just dying
It's
with
just-
anticipation.
It's not a hot take. It's just gonna surprise everyone. But Dragon Age Origins has the best companions. It's not a competition.
I would argue
this
that
is
it's
gonna
a
be
hot
good.
take.
What?
I think that's a hot take.
Oh, I just thought it would be it's a surprising take for me because I am the Dragon Age 2 enthusiast. But I think overall Dragon Age Origins has the most dynamic characters for companions. The characters who can go through the most change and that your choices affect the change that they go through. And that's good writing and that's good gameplay. So, my opinion, it's Dragon Age Origins, and there's no competition.
I don't know, except for maybe Dragon Age Inquisition.
No.
Well, Lizzie, it sounds like you have an opinion, so why don't you go next?
Okay. Well, I do agree with you, Austin, that it seems like you have the most impact on choices for your companions in Origins. I don't think you see the results of that until Dragon Age Inquisition, really, because we see snippets of them in Dragon Age 2, but then we actually do get to see most of those important, quote unquote, important characters again in Inquisition, and we see where they're at. I think that Inquisition has a more dynamic storyline for every character. There's not as much going on that we see in game for all of the characters in Dragon Age Origins. A lot of what makes those characters so dynamic we see in the external media, like with Wynne, with Shale, and then again with Alistair. There's so many different options. You don't really see where he's at in his stories until, like, depending on your choices, until you get to Dragon Age 2 and to Dragon Age Inquisition. And as much as I love the Dragon Age 2 party, like, those are the people I'd hang out with and call idiot all the time because they are all idiots. That's why we love them. I think the characters in Inquisition, there are just so many different facets to each of their characters. They're not the archetypes that we all think they're going to be just by looking at them. That's what makes them so compelling.
I would argue, going back to what you said about the archetypes, and too, I would never say archetypes themselves, just because someone defies an archetype doesn't make it immediately good. Or just because something is an archetype or maybe the standard of that archetype doesn't make it bad. I think what 2 in each character does very much is the epitome of that archetype in that world, in my opinion. I think Varric is the stereotypical bard. And that's a good thing. Isabella's the fun, sexy rogue, and like Fenris, the brooding warrior. It's doesn't just because it's a stereotype or an archetype doesn't make it bad. It just makes it stand. There's a reason they stand out. There's a reason they still exist. Those archetypes.
Stereotypes exist for a reason, and I think there's a difference between harmful stereotypes and ones that just exist, right? Like, the sexy bard who tells stories and, drinks a lot. Like, that's an archetype, that's a stereotype that doesn't hurt anyone. So I think that there is definitely a difference there, but I think that I agree with Lizzie that there are some harmful stereotypes that Dragon Age Inquisition, perhaps more than any of the other games, defies, but also there are still some that they do fall into in that game too. So yeah, anyway, I agree and I disagree with that.
I'm going to jump in here. I agree with Austin. And here is one measure, at least. This is not the main reason why I'm choosing Origins, but I do think that Origins has the least amount of, like, God, I hate this person companions in the group. It's just Oghren. Whereas, like, when you get into Dragon Age 2, you have Anders, Carver, Sebastian, Meryl. I have strong opinions about Meryl. We have talked about this.
You also
Um,
have wrong opinions about Meryl, but that's fine. You can be wrong.
It's fine. Um, and then, but I also think part of it is, for me, at least at this point, it's the nostalgia. Because I really like a lot of the people in Dragon Age Inquisition. But when it comes down to like, if I'm going to think about a party that's Dragon Age, I'm going to think about Origins. That was just the first one that I ever played. That's probably the one that I played the most out of all three of them. That's the one that has stuck with me the longest. And I also do agree with Austin's point as well, just the amount of change that you can affect in your party. And it is true you don't see a lot of that until you get to Dragon Age Inquisitions. But I really like the fact that you are planting those seeds here at this point and you're seeing them as they originally were. And then you get to watch them grow over the course of the series. And I really hope that when we get to DAD, we continue to see, seeds that we planted with our companions and Inquisition transfer over to the next game to any degree, because that's always satisfying to see.
I just want to say that Dragon Age Inquisition might have been my choice if it wasn't for the fact that I think that they're the best story in Origins, because the people other than Wynn really are nobodies when they come to get with you. In Dragon Age Inquisition, you have basically put together the A team.
Ooh,
And I personally think it's better story writing when you can build people up to greatness. Not that, and I want this to say, like, this margin of like what I'm saying is the best is so small that DAD could easily change any opinion I have and could my last place, which is 2, believe it or not, could put just 2 on the top, depending on what happens in DAD and what does that. But I just wanted to clarify, like, this margin is so small that what's the best.
Also, though, and this is not opinion. This is not. Oh, they're my favorite. But Origins has Shale, and Shale has to count for at least like 5 fantastic companions rolled into one. So that's kind of an unfair advantage. Yeah.
If only because of sheer size.
I don't think that's how any of this works.
Cash, I'm going to make you mad, but as far as DAO companions go, Shale is 3rd from the bottom for me. Lower than them are Sten and Ogren.
I think we have talked about this. I don't think I talked to you for a couple of days after you said that the first time.
Can I say you're slowly changing my mind, especially when Cash mentioned about Carver, Sebastian, and Carver. I'm like, maybe I'm looking too much on the good side of 2, but you are slowly changing my mind towards Origins. Because think about it, how many games allow us to literally choose one of our close friends in the party and make him a king? So we can make him a good king, we can make him a bad king, we can decide his entire life story going forward. And I think that's might be why Alistair's one of my favorite companions, honestly. He's top 3.
I just want to say that all of the companions that you listed from 2 that are problematic, are, other than Meryl, but you're just wrong about that, are the human men. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I just wanted to say that, we may not be able to decide kings in Dragon Age Inquisition, but we do get to decide emperor and empresses and the freaking pope. So, I don't know. There's that.
I do think Origins has a lot of heavy hitters in terms of like really important characters. Like we have Morrigan, we have Alistair, and kind of surprisingly, Liliana goes from just Liliana in DAO and becomes super important in the games afterwards. No shade, maybe a little bit shade to Origins Liliana, but But I think the rest of the team is kind of just mid. Like Ogren is actively just gross. Zevran, as much as I love him, doesn't really contribute much to the story. Oh no, Cash is gonna murder me. And then, I've already revealed that my opinion about Wynn is that she's not really interesting.
Cash is
It's
gonna
like-
have like an aneurysm.
I know. I
Win is
respect,
not fine, and neither am I.
I respect your opinions. Wynn is just whatever.
Even after reading Asunder, you still don't think Wynn is interesting?
I mean, yeah. I just don't think she's that interesting.
That's fine.
But that goes back to my point that we don't see enough character development from the Origins characters in Origins. You get most of it through the external media and in the later games, seeing the result of your choices. So does that make them the best while you're playing it, is the question.
I recommend that everyone take this approach that I discovered in my monster playthrough. Just kill Ogren. You can just kill him whenever you want to. All you have to do is get his approval down to 0, and you can buy those fucking lumps of coal from Bodan, and then he'll challenge you to a duel, and then you can say yes, and then you beat him, and then you can decide whether you want to kill him or not. But like, why would you spare him? Come on, let's be honest. We can just exclude Ogren from our Origins narrative going forward.
I've never done that, and now I might try that in my next.
You know what? I hope, just for Cash's sake, that the dwarf romance in DAD is Ogren.
I don't think that's gonna happen. But I know who I'm inviting on the show for our Ogren deep dive. That would be Cash. Well, he might.
I'll hate rant the entire time. Oh, I would love that. It would just be righteous rants.
But why would you want to kill somebody who's voiced by Steve Bloom? He's one of the best voice actors out there.
That's true. That is true.
I was just gonna say Bianca's voiced by Laura Bailey, but we still hate her.
True. Also true. So I think now we're at a good stopping point to go to our mid break.
Yeah.
Ah, Hawk stepped in the poopy.
I love you.
Want a sandwich?
All this for me. And I didn't get Alexius anything.
Send him a fruit basket. Everyone loves those.
So welcome to the middle of the show where we thank our patrons. Thank you to all of your support here for supporting us here. Thank you to our first patrons, Genesis and Lisa M. Thank you to our Divine Tier patron Kit. And thank you to our one and only Nug King, Lewis H. If you want to join us on Patreon and come join us on these chats, you can sign up for our first Enchanter tier or higher. That's $20 a month, and you can join and hang out with us and listen and tell Cash upsetting opinions for fun, because that's what we end up doing. And so you can do that and sign up for Patreon and do that, and we would greatly appreciate it. If you can't support us there, you can support us on Apple or Spotify by leaving reviews. If you leave us 5 stars and some words, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. I believe we have a review to read.
Yeah, I do have one. This one comes from someone named Darkspawn Slayer. So you can tell they really are a fan of the games. And they said, my new favorite podcast, 5 stars. I've been binging this show for the last few weeks and loving it. I've been playing the Dragon Age games since Origins launched on PS3 with my best friend all the way up to Inquisition. I've never been very good about reading the codex, though, and this show has helped me take a deeper look at the world and the lore, so thank you and keep up the great work. And thank you so much for that review.
Yes, thank you for that review. We greatly appreciate it. You can also come and hang out with us on the Discord, the Cups Podcasting and more, and you can come hang out with us there and join that there. You can find that link and links to all of our shows on the Cups Podcasting website, cupspodcasting.com. And that's all I got for the middle of the show.
Up there, giant icicle tits. Tittles.
You're looking for titsicles.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, and it's a real nice night for an evening.
You fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I guess I haven't really said which one that I prefer. Obviously, it's not Origins, but I really am torn between 2 and Inquisition. The thing about 2 that I like is that the companions, you get this feeling that they all kind of live in the same place together, which I mean is obvious just metatextually because it's based in one city. But there's always like these little snippets of them in each other's scenes, like Isabella playing cards with Varric, or Isabella going to Andrew's clinic to get help with an STD. Like, and I just think I find that very cute, I guess, that they, even though they're just such clashing personalities, they still have friendship, I guess. I especially like the interactions between Aveline and Isabella, because, you know, at the beginning, they're very contentious and you kind of think, oh no, are we going to go down this trope of women hating each other, whatever. But the more you bring them out together and get more of their dialogue, you kind of learn that they're just giving each other shit and they actually value each other's company more than you would think. I think there's one dialogue where Aveline's like, I invited you, Isabella, to my holiday party thing. Why didn't you show up? And Isabella's like, well, you know, someday you're going to have kids and I just don't want to have them asking me, what's a slattern? And then Aveline's like, oh, don't worry about that. I'll just point to you. That's a slattern. And it's just very endearing to me. I love that dynamic. But as much as I love Dragon Age 2, I think I have to go with Inquisition as having the best companions. And I sort of take a contrary stance to Austin here in that I think more of the Inquisition group is a bunch of nobodies than we give it credit for. Like, sure, we have Liliana and Josephine and Cassandra, and they're pretty important people in their respective spheres, but pretty much everyone else is just kind of a misfit, really. Like, Dorian is a political outcast and from his country. Vivienne is basically hunting for a new job when you recruit her, because she's like, the Empress doesn't care about me anymore. The circles are gone to shit. Like, I need a new job. Hire me. And then obviously Sarah, literally no one knows who she is by design of the entire group that she's a part of. And then Blackwall is stealing another person's identity. And the real Blackwall is kind of not the person that would have any kind of power in society because he's, you know, a mass murderer. So I don't know. I think the stories there are just more interesting in my opinion. And I think Inquisition carries that spirit from 2, where people interact a little bit more than they did in Origins.
Yeah, I really agree with a lot of that. And I think that you're so right about the companions. There are a lot of them that are not, you know, important people, but we, I think, forget about that because the companions that are important when we meet them are so important. And the companions in Origins, like, none of them are important. And so it's kind of like a major comparison and contrast there that we just kind of overlook it. But yeah, I very much agree with a lot of that.
Yeah, I would have to agree that the Inquisition companions are the best. Also, I mean, you just got. I mean, we've talked about how we can make choices that change their outcome and everything from origins and everything. But I mean, you got so many characters in Inquisition that you can make a choice and it changes their story. Like you got Cole, who can become more human or more of a spirit. And I honestly think, well, I at least hope that will play a big role in the next game, especially with Solus being the Dread Wolf. And that's another thing. Like you had the big bad in your group of companions the whole time, and you don't even know it until the end scene. And then you've also got Iron Bull, who, if you end up sacrificing the Bull's Chargers, like in the Trespasser DLC, he'll turn on you because he's still with the Kunari. So he's following their orders. And then, of course, Cassandra, you can, like was mentioned earlier, you can make basically the Pope. And then Liliana, who you can harden to be more ruthless. And I just think it's more dynamic choices than most other games.
I do agree with that too. I think it is more dynamic. And my answer is also Inquisition, just because I think when you look at their overall arc throughout the game and throughout, well, I guess it's just throughout Inquisition so far, I just think that the ways that the characters change and are written is more impactful than any of the other two. Like I said earlier, we can influence who becomes the next pope. We get to, choose the next ruler of Orlais, essentially. And I know that that's not a companion necessarily, but I just feel like so many of their stories are important to the world, yes, but also so important to them. And they're so well written to me, most of them, that they do almost feel like real people, like they could be real people. And to me, it's like, that's the hallmark of good writing, is if this could be real, you really believe it. And I don't necessarily think I've ever felt that way with Origins or Dragon Age 2 and their characters. Lizzie, are you shunning me or Austin?
I'm shunning your husband for what he said.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So, okay, I know I posted in the Patreon and said that we could talk about our favorite characters if we have extra time, but I last minute kind of thought it might be fun to also, or instead, discuss people that we think could be characters and companions in Dreadwolf now that all of the missing episodes are out. So we don't have to go around, we can just talk about it. So if anybody wants to volunteer or talk about a specific companion that they're potentially obsessed with, you have the floor.
I haven't read The Missing, so I know nothing.
Well,
I haven't either. I haven't read any of them yet.
You don't have to have read the comic to know these characters. So there you go, Austin.
I have to say, I'm still really holding out hope that Dorian's going to be a companion again, because it just would not make sense for him not to be a major part of the next game. Now, I get that he wouldn't necessarily be a companion. He could be an advisor, or we see him pop up a few times, but we're going to be in freaking Tevinter. It would not make sense for Dorian, who is trying to stop the shit show, that is Tevinter politics and everything else that's going on, not to be involved.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I do have a feeling they'll bring him back more as more as an advisor, but I definitely agree that he should be involved in some way. And I think he makes an appearance in Winter Nights anyway, so I feel like that is at least a pretty good predictor that he'll be involved somehow. I feel like, I know that people have been asking us on Twitter, like, when are you going to talk about the missing? But I haven't read the last issue yet. We will eventually talk about it, but I think that it was kind of underwhelming to me personally. It just felt like a reiteration for the 11 millionth time of the trailer that they released. Like, we know the game is going to be about Solus. Okay, great. Give us something else. So I think I would say I think To Winter Nights is more interesting, of a like prequel almost to Dreadwolf. So I would recommend reading that more than I would The Missing. I know it's longer, but it's still short stories, so you can kind of pick and choose.
I actually hope that Varric is not a companion. Give my little boy a break. Just let him chill. Let him be happy in his merchant guild. But I think with him narrating,
he hates the Merchants Guild.
I know, but he hates them, but he loves to hate them. He would be sad when they're gone. I think that Charter might come back in some way, of like, just because she has such a big involvement in, what's that chapter called? The one with Solus in it.
Oh, it's something like May the Dreadwolf Take You. Or
Yeah, May
like
the Dreadwolf Take You. Especially with her involvement in that, I think that she will be involved. I do think that our Inquisitor is going to be involved in some way. I just think there's too much of a connection for them to not have some role. I hope they handle it a little better than they did Hawk in Inquisition, but I don't know. And Lizzie said in chat, I do think that Miriam or some of these Absolution characters might come back as advisors or companions, and maybe, even maybe out of left field that we'll have Tasia as a companion.
So I think also, to go on that, there have been several there have been several characters from To Winter Nights that showed up in The Missing, which I feel like is almost a confirmation that those characters are going to be in Dreadwolf, and I wrote them down. So there are 4 of them. So Taya and Viago, who are both Antivan Crows, and Ireland and Strife, who are both elves from the like Dalish tribes in the Arlathan Forest. I know they're not called Dalish, but from over there in that area. I think of those 4 of them, like, they're definitely going to be in the game in some way. And then obviously Harding and Charter came back as well. And so I think those are 2 more shoe-ins almost for characters. I don't know how big they plan on making the companion party, but I think those are some good options for sure.
They've never done more than 9, have they?
I know that Inquisition was the biggest.
There's 3 of each class in Inquisition. Yeah. Well, it's hard to consider, like, do you consider the advisors companions, or are they their own separate category?
I consider them separate because you can't take them out into combat. Technically Origins and Inquisition have the same amount if you have Shale, and that's because you can't have Logain and Alistair in your party together at the same time. So technically they're the same.
For as much as I love Inquisition, I do kind of hope we have fewer companions, because it is a lot to go around Skyhold and talk to everybody after every mission. Just from like a logistical standpoint, I feel like, and there's always just like at least one person from each like character class that you just throw in the dumpster depending on your playthrough, because there's just too many people. And so I would be okay if we kind of shrunk the party size a little bit. And yeah, as for who could show up, God, I have no clue. I think it would be really cool to see Fenris again, and to see Vea as well, since they're kind of traveling together now with their Babari Autumn. I think it'd be really cool to see those 2.
I would say I actually disagree about the too many. I think one of my favorite parts of the game is actually going around Skyhold, and because I like jumping off stuff, high stuff. I don't know, but I think it's going around the companions post important missions and just seeing their opinions on each mission. I enjoy that part. I don't want more companions, but I think three of each class is not a bad thing. I don't want back to like, I don't know what I'm saying, but like I prefer how it is companions wise personally. But like if I had to choose a companion to one that I genuinely think will be, if not a companion, an advisor of some sort, is Mavaris.
Yeah, especially if Dorian is there, because Mavaris is Dorian's best friend other than the Inquisitor. And you know that party dialogue would be the most hilarious stuff.
Yeah, I think that with the number of companions, at least for me, I do enjoy talking to all of them and the dynamic things that's getting over there, but it feels, for some of their better conversations, it feels like a chore to bring them all out. And especially if you're trying to do a nightmare playthrough, like, I'm sorry, Varric, but you're too squishy and you don't deal enough damage. I can't take you with me on a nightmare playthrough.
Maybe it's because I stay far away from nightmare playthroughs, because the same reason I play single player RPGs is because I suck at video games and just want to enjoy the story.
That's totally fair. And I think the balance is fine with Inquisition. I definitely don't want another DA2 scenario where the party balance is just chaos. Because if you have all the DLC, you have Isabella, Varric, and Sebastian are all rogues. And then if you play a rogue, that is 4 rogues. And then you have like 2 mages and 2 warriors. And I'm just like, what is happening here? Why did Sebastian need to be a rogue? Why does Sebastian need to be there at all?
Let's be honest. Who among us took Sebastian? Let's be honest.
I took him out places, but only when I had Isabella or Varric with me, because they give him so much crap. And it's hilarious.
Yeah, the dialogue is the only reason.
My biggest beef with DA2 and why it honestly gets in the last place is that if you do not spec as a healer, you have one option, and that is Anders.
I do think, and I will say, going back to kind of the previous topic, I think that Dragon Age 2's companions are the ones that feel the most like friends. Like they feel the most in world, like they are really friends with real relationships. I'm not sure that the rest, that Origins and Inquisition feel that way. Inquisition at least feels like they're colleagues, which they are. They are working colleagues, and they should feel that way. But yeah, DA2 is the one where they like clearly have friendships, and there are antagonistic relationships among them too, you know? So I think that's a definite pro in its column.
Yeah, and I will say that this is a rare instance that I don't think a lot of people actually get to experience. But if you have Alistair as a warden and you finish the Wicked Eyes, Wicked Hearts first, but you've brought him in, you can have a conversation between him and Morrigan, and they talk like old friends, which I found much more satisfying in the fact that Liliana's only comment about Morrigan is like, oh, I've dealt with her before, which I found incredibly frustrating from a writing standpoint.
Yeah.
I will say with that line though, Austin, it makes sense to me that Liliana might have that attitude or not want to say anything about it or too much about Morrigan and her experiences, really, because she's still not in the best frame of mind until you complete her quest, basically. So she's not going to show her cards to anybody, not even the Inquisitor. And also another circumstance where I think that would make sense is if you played as a warden who romanced Morrigan and Liliana and chose one over the other, it doesn't even matter which one. Liliana's not going to have a great opinion of Morrigan if she was in love with the warden and the warden was romancing both of them at the same time.
That's fair. That's very fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I think, to me, one of the best dialogues in Inquisition is if you has played a female warden, and you went through the dark ritual with Alistair, and you do what you did in Inquisition. That hearing how when Morgan says, "What do you tell him?" and she says that his father was a good man. That to me completes the circle of their relationship. That genuinely I audibly said that.
Yeah, I do love that moment. It's a good one.
There's
Really
also a moment of like their old relationship, because he like Alistair will ask about Kieran and Morgan will just go, "He's a boy, Alistair. He's a human boy."
Like he expected him to be like a demon.
Yes, a tentacle monster.
Right. Which, like, knowing Alistair, he probably did think that.
But my question is, did he think that because of the old god soul or because Morgan is his mother?
Probably both.
50-50.
I'm going to be honest. I kind of get where Alistair's coming from. I don't know. There's literally a magical ritual making this child involving a dead god. I'm like, that's terrifying. What is this child? I would be thinking Cthulhu at that point.
I mean, they do it the regular way, though. So, I mean, it's just,
Regular way.
Hey, that cutscene doesn't show us everything that happens. We don't know.
That's true. It comes closer than any of the other romance cutscenes in Origins, though. Yeah. So I don't have anything else to talk about. So I think we should end it early for a few minutes. Sound good? Anybody have anything else to add?
All right. So y'all can do your shout outs. Just tell people where they can find you and anything you would like to plug. So we'll start with LVC 13. I said it wrong again, but that's okay.
Don't worry about it. All right. I am LVCC13 or Lizzie, and you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/LVCC13, where I stream right now Dragon Age and Mass Effect.
And then we'll go with Crimson Knight.
Hello, I'm Steven or Crimson Knight on Discord.
Capricorn.
Yep, I'm Capricorn Tower. I don't have anything to plug other than the Discord, which is a fun place to be.
And then MacMan.
Hey, I'm MacMan813 on pretty much everything. I've been going through a lot of mental health struggles recently, and I just want to say this podcast, not just Dragon Age podcast, the AC Lore podcast, all the podcasts you guys have introduced me to, like Two Girls One Ship, they've genuinely like hearing something, taking your mind away from the problems you're going through has really helped me a lot. So I just want to say thank you guys. And once again, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. A special thank you to our Nug King patron, Lewis H., who gets his shout out at the end of every show. And thank you all for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at DA Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions, topics to unpack, or side character suggestions, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's easily the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. You can find us there on patreon.com/Dragon Age Lorecast.
The Dragon Age Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time. love Dragon Age? Have you always wanted to learn more about its vast world and detailed lore? Are you still attached to your hero of Ferelden, even a decade after Dragon Age Origins came out? Or maybe you're a newer fan, still discovering a new tidbit or quest every day.
Well, either way, the Dragon Age Lorecast is the podcast for you. I'm Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I'm Shelby, also known as She-Cup.
And come and join us as we embark on a journey to explore and discover all things Dragon Age.
We'll discuss all kinds of topics, from Lyrium to the Chantry and the great mysteries of the old gods, and even more that even you BioWare superfans might not know about.
So come and listen on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. And always remember,
Swooping